If you think New York is expensive because of rent alone, that is only the first bill. Because in New York, the real pressure does not come from one number. It comes from the stack. Rent, utilities, transportation, taxes, and all the small everyday costs that quietly eat your budget before you even notice. In New York City, the average apartment rent is $4,872, and the average one-bedroom is $4,707. In Manhattan, the average rent is even higher at $5,324, and the cost of living is 83% higher than the state average and 132% higher than the national average. So today, we are breaking down the hidden costs of living in New York and why so many people feel like they are paying for the city in more ways than one. Let's start with the biggest one, rent. For most people, rent is the bill that decides everything else. Where you live, how much you save, what kind of neighborhood you can afford, and whether your money lasts the full month or disappears in the first week. In New York City, the average apartment rent is already close to $5,000. That is not a luxury penthouse number. That is the average. And in Manhattan, the average one-bedroom is $5,131, with the overall average apartment rent at $5,324. That means even normal living in New York often comes with a premium. Even in Inwood, one of Manhattan's more affordable neighborhoods, the average one-bedroom rent is still $2,127. So when people say New York is expensive, they usually mean rent is already doing the most damage before anything else is added. Now let's talk about utilities, because this is where a lot of people underestimate the total cost. In Manhattan, energy bills are about $260.37 per month, and phone service is listed at $203.89 on the cost of living breakdown. That means the basic support bills of everyday life are already adding serious weight to the budget. And statewide, New York's average residential electricity price was 24.43 cents per kilowatt hour, with an average monthly residential bill of $139.53 in the EIA's 2024 data. So even before you think about entertainment, shopping, or food delivery, you are already paying a lot just to keep the lights on and stay connected. That is the part people often miss. New York does not only charge you when you sign the lease, it keeps charging you after you move in. Then there is transportation. If you live in New York, you are probably using transit more often than in most American cities. And while that is convenient, it is not free. The current MTA fare is $3 for most subway and local bus rides, and $7.25 for express buses. That might not sound terrible at first, but if you ride every day, the cost adds up fast. 2 rides a day, 5 days a week, a full month of commuting. Suddenly, transportation becomes another major line item, not a small convenience. And if you combine that with ride shares, late-night trips, or commuting between boroughs, New York quickly becomes a city where moving around can feel like its own monthly bill. Now let's talk about taxes, because this is one of the biggest hidden costs. New York City residents deal with both state-level tax obligations and city-level tax rules. The New York State tax system includes New York City resident income tax sections in Form IT-201. New York State also updated its 2026 withholding tax tables and methods effective January 1st, 2026. On top of that, the total New York City sales and use tax rate is 8.875%, made up of city, state, and metropolitan commuter transportation district components. So every time you spend money, the city and state can both take a piece. That matters because New York is not just expensive when you pay rent. It is expensive when you buy clothes, groceries, or almost anything else that gets taxed at the register. This is the part that catches a lot of people off guard. The biggest problem with New York is not one giant expense. It is the entire cost stack. In Manhattan, food is 13% higher than the state average. Groceries are around 18% pricier than the US average. Transportation is 18% higher than the US average, and healthcare is 47% more expensive than the national average. That means even the things you cannot avoid, food, movement, and basic living, are all pulling in the same expensive direction. So when people ask why life in New York feels so heavy, the answer is not just rent. It is rent, plus utilities, plus transit, plus taxes, plus daily spending, all at the same time. And that is the real hidden cost of New York. It is not one bill that breaks you. It is the combination of all the bills. A rent payment that is already high, utility costs that do not feel small, transit that keeps charging every week, taxes that take another piece, and daily expenses that are more expensive than they should be. That is why a salary that looks strong on paper can still feel tight in real life. Because in New York, income matters, but what really matters is what you keep after the city takes its share. And for a lot of people, that is the part that changes the entire experience. So if you are thinking about living in New York, do not just ask, can I afford the rent? Ask, can I afford the full cost of living here? Because that is the question that really decides whether New York feels exciting or exhausting. If you found this helpful, comment below and tell me what surprised you most. And if you want the next breakdown, I can show you the cheapest states to live in or the best budget cities in America.